My name is Ross Mandell, and I'm going to tell you a story about my life I've never told before. It's the first time I ever got sued. It's 1985. I'm a young, brash stockbroker working at Oppenheimer Company. And I was a really, really good, productive broker. And I was dialing my phone 300 times a day, getting leads, opening accounts, and trading, developing my own book. At that time, I had no help. I just had a sales assistant, but I had no cold callers, account openers. I didn't have a team. This is pre the team days, 1985. And so at Oppenheimer Company, we were given instruction. They had a top tier research department, and we would get these beautiful research reports, and we'd have meetings, et cetera, and they would send them out to in the mail whenever we got a lead. I had this lead card. Imagine a 5x8 card, stapled to D&B. Guy's name was Alfred Scher from Virginia, and it said that he was an arbitration specialist, something to that effect. I should have known when I saw the word arbitration, but I never had a problem before. And I would call Alfred Scher, and he told me he had millions in the market, and I had a list of all his positions. I mean, this guy was big, and I would call him, and he would take my call, and I would pitch him a stock. And we were only doing New York Stock Exchange A-rated companies, companies that earn money, companies that own big brands, and all that good stuff. And I would pitch them, and I'm pretty good. I'm not great yet, but I'm a pretty good sales guy, presenter, stockbroker. I'm very capable. I was opening between 15 and 20 accounts a month, which is at elite level at that time, and I was making between 30 and 40,000 a month. And I was just trying to get to that next level, leveling up. And Alfred Scher was a big dog. And so I pitch him. He'd tell me, I'll think about it. I'm going at him, this and that. I couldn't get him to budge. And then I'm going through my daily stuff. This is going on for a few weeks. And one day the phone rings, and my assistant goes, Ross, you got a call from Mr. Scher. I was excited. And I'm using real names here. And Mr. Scher gets on the phone, and Alfred goes, Ross, you're such a good guy. You're so intelligent. You're so capable. He's giving me all the bullshit. And he says, I have my wife, Mary, on the phone. Hi, Ross. I'm Mary Scher. Mary has expressed an interest in getting involved in the stock market. And I said, you know what? I know a very, very energetic, a very entertaining young man. He's at a great firm, Oppenheimer Company. They produce great research. This is my wife, Mary. Mary, this is Ross. Mary would like to get involved in the market. So I'm going to say goodbye. You two guys should go forward. Mary, he's a good guy. Okay. Do I know what's going on? No. So I'm excited. And Mary says, is there any particular security or stock that you guys like today? And I said, as a matter of fact, I'm building a very big position in a big New York Stock Exchange A-rated company. It's called Whitman Enterprises. Symbol is WH on the New York Stock Exchange. And I gave Mary the whole presentation. And Whitman, I forget right now all the details, but they own like 6, 7 top brands that are in all the stores, that they have name recognition. It was like, wow, like who knew, ever heard of Whitman Enterprises? I had never heard of them before my stockbroker days, but this is a company that actually went to the markets and acquired these brands that have great earnings and great revenues and places on the shelves, distributors, et cetera, the household names, kind of really household names. Make a long story short, Mary and I began our relationship. She bought 1,000 shares of Whitman Enterprises, 35,000 first trade. I handed it over to my assistant, got the confirmation of the trade, agreed on the trade, and she became a client, $35,000, roughly. These are ballpark figures, but I do remember it was Whitman. And then Mary had an appetite, and obviously she had a checkbook. These were very rich people. Alfred and Mary Scher, he was like an international arbitrage mitigator or something, and he had told me he's involved in some of the biggest settlement type things between the multi-billion-dollar drug companies when they get sued and they're in court and the judges appoint him and he has to come and debate different things. He was worth tens of millions of dollars. And Mary bought that stock, 1,000 shares at 35. And Whitman it wasn't a big mover, but it was hanging in there. And I called her back when we had another recommendation, as she had asked me. And I forget the next one. It was something like U.S. Steel. It was a big name, Dow 30 stock, big number, $35, $40 a share. She bought 1,000 shares of that. And again, everything that I presented to her in those days, everything I did was I was protected as a broker, or so I thought, by because I had a big research report that was produced in-house by Oppenheimer Company. I'm going to teach you guys a real lesson about Wall Street today. She bought 5 Oppenheimer A recommendations on their buy list. This was public information before the internet, before cell phones, but this is a real investment bank, a big name. And she had 5 recommendations. What happened? This is 1985. No big crash, no terrible times. The oddest thing happened. Whitman went from 35 to like 28. First it went to 32 and down 28. Then Steele and each and every one of these Oppenheimer recommendations, not too long after I took a position in it, started to go down. I had bought 5 or 6 in a row, and each and every one of them went down almost 20%. And I was like, God damn, how is this possible? Because the market was pretty good at that time. I learned a big lesson. You're going to learn a lesson right now. And so one day the phone rings, and it's Mary Share. And I pick it up. Mary, how are you? What's going on? She wants to know. We have 5 stocks, and 5 stocks have gone down. She goes, yeah, I gave her my spiel, my take on it. And she said, you know what, Ross, I decided this is just not for me. I'd like my money back. I'm like, excuse me? She goes, I want my money back. She goes, I sent you, $250,000 between these 5 companies, and I've lost, 15%, 20% in each one. And I'd like you to refund my money. So when we started on Wall Street, one of the things we learned is that when we sell securities to you, and when you buy securities, it's an intangible item, meaning none of the 5 sensors are involved. If you go to Macy's and you pick up a product, you can look at it, you can see it. If it's a certain type of product, you can actually taste it or smell it. It's a tangible item. You're recording, your 5 senses are recording of vibrations and feelings inside your brain, your psyche. It's very real. These are tangible things. But securities, we're selling you something that you're never going to see, you're never going to touch, you're never going to feel, you're never going to taste, you're never going to hear. Your 5 senses are not involved. It's a much harder sale, and that's why the guys that come from Wall Street, a la the Wolf of Wall Street and some of the great names you just don't know about, Ross Mandell, for instance, we're just incredible sales guys because we've been trained and we're practiced and we're rehearsed in repetition, etc. We're coming to you with these opportunities, but they're intangible opportunities. And so it makes the sale a little bit harder. So I said, Mary, you just can't, this is not Macy's. You just can't return the shares and get your money back. She goes, well, that's not true. She says, that's not true. And she says, I want my money back. Otherwise, I'm going to exercise my legal right. And I'm like, please, man, I didn't do anything wrong. Now, another thing they tell you when you're a young broker is never deal with women. I know the Me Too movement, and this is going to be very politically insensitive, but that's what they told you on Wall Street in 1985, 1990, 2000. Women, have that response. Women go to stores, they shop, and they're more involved. They buy things that are more tangible. And Mary Share said, I want my money back. And I spoke to her, and I'm really never had an issue. I've never been sued in my life. And I couldn't believe what I was dealing with. And I was so stressed out, and I didn't know what to do. And after several conversations, she says, Mr. Mandell, We don't want to have to sue you because I know you're a good guy, but I want my money back. And so because she brought that up, I was working at a firm. We're very regulated. I had to go to my manager, and then we had to go to the compliance department. And just like that, within a month or two, the threats came in. She wants her money back. Oppenheimer went through the account. I bought 5 or 6 in a row Oppenheimer recommendations, exactly as I was trained to do, and every one of them went down 15 to 20%. I came to find out that most Wall Street firms at that time and even today use their retail brokers and their retail clientele to build their institutional section. So they take a position with the institutional department. They handle the biggest accounts in the world. And then poor people like Mary Scher and Ross Mandell buying and pitching and owning these different shares. And meanwhile, your own firm is selling them into the market. And you're buying them cushioned the blow. And we end up many years later in an arbitration hearing. These things take a long time. This was the first stain on my life and my record. And I really, really, really hurt me. And my own firm, Oppenheimer, went against me. He says, "What'd you do?" Like it's my fault. I said, "What? These are your stocks. These are your reports. Every single stock that I bought went down 5, 6, 7 in a row. Nobody's that unlucky. And nobody's that good because the institution department was selling the shares. They bought a whole bunch in the 20s and recommended it in the 30s. And then they were selling it to the retail customers. Shame on you, Oppenheimer." It turns out years and years later, we end up in an arbitration hearing. I'm so upset. The firm is actually going against me, trying to blame me, Joan Caridi. And I did nothing wrong. I was a great soldier playing for a bad army. And I took a couple of bullet wounds. And because of that experience, I was greatly tainted as a broker because Oppenheimer, unlike many other firms, chose not to stand behind me like I did something wrong. And I did nothing wrong. I was a star. And then when I went to leave Oppenheimer and I brought that up, they went crazy on me and did everything they could to keep me, telling me how much they loved me and they treasured me and all these different things, put their arms around me, offered me money to stay, etc. I said, no, because when I was going through it, they wanted me to pay back the money to Mary Scher, which was wrong. At the end of the day, I was exonerated. I paid nothing. I had an attorney, my good friend Justin Levine. We went to this arbitration. I met the Schers. They were actually nice people, but they understood that they had an opportunity to get the money back because they understood the law. They understood the practice. They weren't stupid people. They were sharp people. And the guys that were running Oppenheimer at the time were doing some shitty, underhanded, sneaky things, and they got caught, so they paid. They paid out, and they paid the Schers money, and they were cited by the panel, but I was free to go. I didn't have an issue. So that's just an experience that I wanted to share with you all. I never talked about this publicly, and never in that kind of detail, using real names, and I hope that, opens your eyes a little bit to some of the schemy, shady practices that are going on right now on Wall Street. Do not think that's a one-off kind of story. That's more like the way it is, morning, noon, and night, day in and day out. So tread very carefully, la caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Thank you for allowing me to share today.